Hi everyone, it's Joseph from English with Joseph. It's good to be here again. As many of you know, I've been looking at the idea of developing some kind of twice weekly, daily podcast or vodcast to discuss little things. Maybe to bring in the news so we can talk about that, or to bring special guests so we can talk to them, like I did a few days ago with my Venezuelan friend Avi, or just to look at today's news or to pick up some small points of English grammar. Well, I asked for your feedback, and one person, his name is Artem from Russia, responded. Hi Artem, thank you for responding. Now I think I made a promise in my last vodcast, or one of my last ones, that everyone who responds, I will give them a special gift. I'll give them one of my books, which I'm currently selling on Amazon. Okay, it's a Kindle book, so I can email it to you, Artem, if you can send me your email address. So if you could make contact with me again, I'll pass that over to you, if you need it, of course. Thank you. I'm still looking for feedback on how you want this podcast to be, things that would help you best. Artem said conversation and general chat rather than focusing on specific things might be better. I will be taking you for a walk around Barcelona in the coming days, but right now, today, I want to share with you a few things that I've been looking at. First of all, I want to talk to you about podcasts, and I've been listening to a wonderful podcast which I only discovered yesterday, and it's from CBC in Canada. And CBC, as you might know, is the Canadian Broadcasting Company, or Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Very nice, and the podcast is called Unreserved. And it's about life of the Native American Indians, or perhaps I should call them Native Canadian Indians. Whatever you want to call them, it's the Indigenous people of Canada, the Aboriginals. It's a very interesting podcast. It talks about the younger people, how they're feeling, what their lives are like. There's some music, there's some inspirational stories. There's news about the Truth and Reconciliation Project, which they're trying to bring in, because I think they feel they were not always treated fairly by the mainstream Canadian citizens. So there's all kinds of things there. It's a wonderful podcast. It's called Unreserved, and you can find it on the CBC podcast list, which I think is at cbc.ca/podcasts, but anyway, you'll find it at cbc.ca. They have another very good news podcast called The Backstory. I haven't listened to the CBC podcast for a while. I used to listen to one called Q, which was very good, with the Iranian, I think he was half Iranian, half Canadian, maybe English presenter. I can't remember. I don't even remember his name now, but unfortunately he I think was removed owing to some legal challenges. I don't know, but he was a very good presenter, and I always liked the tone of his voice and how he could bring subjects alive, but they've removed him and replaced him with someone else. That's a very good podcast though, the Q podcast. It talks a lot about music, features, articles. It's very nice. Another CBC podcast I can recommend. Well, this week in the news, first of all, I suppose I should say, Celine Dion's husband has passed away. English people, we prefer passed away. Well, I have to say, I'm certainly not a fan of Celine Dion. She murdered one of my records, which was It's All Coming Back to Me Now by Jim Steinman. The original, of course, being by Pandora's Box. It's All Coming Back to Me, Celine Dion sang. I'm not sure why she decided to sing that. It may have been something to do with her backing singer, Elaine Caswell. Elaine Caswell is a beautiful singer, but no one knows her because she's always the backing singer for other people. But she is quite famous as an artist on her own. Elaine Caswell is the backing singer for many artists such as Celine Dion, Cyndi Lauper. She was a backing singer for Whitney Houston. She's a regular cabaret performer in, I believe, New York. Oh, she's an amazing singer, and really, I have many of her recordings that I found. She was also the voice for many radio jingles and advertising campaigns in the US and the UK throughout the 1980s. You know, that deep power voice that they had to promote things like Pepsi? She was one of the Pepsi singers. She sang with Bette Midler as a backing singer as well. She did the song for the advert for Doritos. It's an amazing voice, but no one's ever heard of her. Anyway, in the 1980s, I think it was, she was a member of a group called Pandora's Box, which was a Jim Steinman created group, and she was the front lead for the singer. That's not correct. She was the front lead for the band Pandora's Box for the song It's All Coming Back to Me Now. Okay? Really, she has an amazing voice. You can find it on YouTube. She also was the person who sang the song Meet the Mets for the US football team. Anyway, she sang as a backing singer for Celine Dion on many of her songs. It could be that they discussed it and that Celine Dion wanted to sing it. I'm guessing there must have been some connection there, because she would be the link between the song and Celine, I suppose. Anyway, Celine Dion's husband passed away. I didn't like the way Celine Dion sang one of my all-time favourite songs, but I can forgive her. I'm not one to hold a grudge against someone. But do check out Elaine Caswell. She has her own website, ElaineCaswell.com. And if you do some searches on the internet, you'll find some of the hits she had. She was very famous in the US for singing with Joe Jackson, I believe. But anyway, I prefer her Jim Steinman stuff, that deep rock, kind of classic, almost gospel effect. The voice of an angel, I think she's been described as. That's certainly one piece of news. In my teaching profession this week, I've came across a few things. One of the biggest things is the past and perfect tenses. These seem again to hold a lot of confusion for a lot of people, and I just don't know why. I think it's because when you try to describe something on paper, it looks complex. For example, if you roll a cube out, you're left with a cross, a piece of paper which is a cross. Okay, so if you open up a cube, you get something shaped like a cross, and you can examine it and everything else and talk about it and discuss its dimensions, but at the end of the day, it's a cube. That's what it is. And it's the same with English. When you start to unravel things and put them down on paper, they can be so confusing, really, very confusing. So I think this is why people read about the present perfect and the past perfect tenses, and they just can't get their head around it. They can't understand. Part of the reason is because in some other countries these tenses don't exist. For example, in Russia there isn't a past perfect tense or a present perfect tense, so there's a lot of confusion as to when to use it. I've written a book about it. It's on Amazon. You can check it out there if you want. It's a small Kindle book. It's easy to download. Or if you book a lesson with me, I'll give it to you. But basically, or if you give me feedback on the video with your email, I'll give it to you as well. But basically, it doesn't have to be complicated. The perfect tenses are tenses which don't associate with time. The best way to think about it is the past tense is this big archive. Okay, it's like a library where everything is filed in date order. Yeah, date order. That's this big library. Let me say that again, because I don't think I've said that very clearly. Imagine a big library, okay, in date order. Rather than the books being filed by the author's name, they're filed by date and time. Okay? Picture that for a moment. And picture how there's no feeling in that. For example, on Monday, I went to the hospital. Okay, Monday I went to the hospital. On Tuesday, I went to work. On Wednesday, I phoned my friend. So I'm telling you what I did on those days, using the past tense. But imagine, I didn't want to tell you what I was doing on a day, but I wanted to tell you the importance of the situation. Maybe I wanted to say that I was at the hospital and I'm a bit worried about it. I can say, hey, listen, I've been to the hospital. I have been to the hospital. Okay? And that makes it more important because I'm focusing on the action rather than the time. And that's the only difference. That is one of the main reasons the present perfect exists, okay? And there's some things in the present perfect that you can't talk about using the past tense. Change, growth, love, experience. These things don't have start dates and end dates, okay? So they can never fit into a system which is time, you know? So anyway, I say all of this to show you that the past tense is not suitable for everything. There's other more straightforward reasons why we use the present perfect. For example, to describe a recent past event, to describe something which started in the past and ended in the past. But the golden rule is, with the present perfect, it will never be about time. You can't say on Monday I have been, for example. Okay? So that gives you a rough idea of the present perfect and the present perfect continuous. Just a very general idea. There's other reasons as well why we use it, of course. One reason is when we're talking about something but we don't want time to be an issue. Another reason is it's an easy way to describe something without having to bring in time. For example, I am an English teacher. I have been an English teacher for the last 20 years. There's no other way I could say that, unless I say I started to teach in, and give the year, and then I'm still teaching. But it gets a bit too complicated. So that's the system in my in my view. You can find it all in my book, which you can download for Kindle, or give me some feedback and I'll send it to you. But I hope that gives you some idea. There's other grammatical ways of using it as well, so I've not covered it all in detail there, but it's just part of emotion that a lot of people seem to be confused about. So hopefully that gives you some idea. Okay, well, here in Barcelona there's big elections. That's the news from this part of the world. I don't really like politics, so I don't really want to talk about that in any great detail. Musically, what have I been listening to? Well, I have a lot of things that I need to listen to, music that's been given to me by other people that I haven't really been looking at. I suppose in other entertainment news today, the big news from Netflix is that they're about to stop people using DNS, workarounds to get their, how can I say it? They plan to stop people using DNS workarounds for them to view other countries' Netflix. Netflix is agreeing licensing agreements with films to be shown in other countries, okay? Because of that, they have to stop the abuse of people using VPNs, virtual private networks, to pretend they're in another country. We all have VPNs. I need a VPN for my job when I'm teaching, but if I wanted to, I guess I could ask it to let me see Netflix in Australia, for example. Because if my computer thinks I'm in Australia, and the internet thinks I'm in Australia, it will reveal to me Australian things. Okay, Netflix is trying to cut down on that because there's licensing issues, and the BBC are as well. The BBC iPlayer is another big one. I recommend that you check out filmon.com. Filmon.com, you can watch all British TV channels free, live. I think they run 8 seconds behind live TV, which is nothing. And so they can call it live because it's only 8 seconds, and they get around the government system as well by saying it's not live. So Filmon's a good one, especially the app. The app will give you access to all of the British TV channels. Unfortunately, the website is not laid out in a very functional or constructive way, but download the app. Just then at a glance you can use it. Okay, well that's all from me, I think. I don't think there's anything else that I need to say today. I wanted to talk to you a bit more about music, but I don't really have a list of music in front of me to let you know what I'm listening to. Maybe I'll do that the next time. Okay, feedback welcome, and have a nice day. Bye bye.